Okay, aloha. So we should be going live about now. Okay. Aloha, everyone, and welcome to the Lahui updates. I am your hostess, Kealani Sonoda Pale, and we are very pleased to have our guest today to speak on Pohakuloa. Are you able to see me? Shane, can you check if you can just double check?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay, can you see me?
Yes, I can see
Okay,
you.
great. Okay, so we are live on Facebook, and I want to mahalo everyone for coming on today. Today is Friday, December 4th, 2020. And first of all, I want to acknowledge our two sign interpreters, Jenny Blake and Laura Sovanaski. Mahalo nui loa for doing this for our hearing impaired Lahui. Our topic tonight is Pohakuloa and what's going on there with the court case, as well as the Mauna Kea Ailike Ohana. Okay, so just to kind of give you guys a little bit of background on Pohakuloa and what's going on there, I just wanted to share. My name is Healani Sonora Pale. By the way, if you don't know me, I am a citizen of KaLahuiHawaiiKomikeKalaiaina. If you're watching this, you're either watching it on KaLahuiHawaiiKomikeKalaiaina or Wiwi TV. Mahalo for joining us. Been in the movement for over 20 years, and we've been doing Lahui updates for almost a year now to update the Lahui on issues that are going on. So the topic, Pohakuloa. Hawaii is the most militarized state in the US. It's home to 161 US military installation and bases. The military here in Hawaii, the presence here in Hawaii has been a very destructive one, destroying our sacred sites, iwi kupuna, polluting our harbors, lands, poisoning our waters. So this is an issue that has been ongoing since the colonization of Hawaii by the US. It's an issue regarding the militarization of Hawaii and the US presence here. So militarism is historically rooted in imperialism, and it works collaboratively with industries like the tourist industries, the news media. And so tonight we're talking about one particular base, Pohakuloa Training Area, located in the ahupua'a of Ka'ohe, Hamakua, and Pu'uanahulu, North Kona on Hawaii Island. On August 17th, 1964, the State of Hawaii Department of Land and Natural Resources entered into a written agreement to lease 22,900 acres of Hawaiian Kingdom Crown and government lands to the United States for military purposes. The lease is up in 2029. In an effort to renew the lease, there was a Pohakuloa EIS scoping period. So there's all these issues that came up, but what we're going to talk about first is we're going to talk about the Ching versus case court case. And we're very lucky to have Uncle Ku Ching here, Aunty Maxine Kahaulelio, the two plaintiffs in this case, which is a landmark case that went all the way to the Hawaii Supreme Court. And I want them to share about that. Mahalo, Aunty Maxine and Uncle Ku, for being here. We also have their star witness here with us, Ke aloha Piskoda. Mahalo for being here. So first question I want to ask Uncle Ku and Aunty Maxine. Mm-hmm. What was the Ching versus case court case about? And why did you both stand as plaintiffs in that court case? What was it about? Like, what was the bottom line of that case?
Yeah, Uncle Ku.
Really? Well, it so happens that, well, actually, we should probably go back in time, in that, Hawaiian land sort of start out with the kingdom or the kingdoms, and Then we have Kaui Keauli, King Kamehameha III, who does the Great Mahele. And this is the late 1840s, 1850s.
Mm.
Um, and one of the things I'd like to emphasize is that when he before that he had sort of like sole dominion over all the lands.
Mm.
He didn't own them, but he was sort of the trustee of them. And let me just say that the terms we use tonight may not be the exact terms that historians may use or lawyers may use, but hopefully they're working terms that we can all sort of understand. Um, so he does the Great Mahele and divides the lands into different portions, part to the government, part to individuals, and keeping some for himself. But the interesting thing about it is at that time, as a condition of it, he makes all these lands subject to the native tenants, the use of the native tenants. And if you can understand, we had Hawaiians living all over the place. They uh, there were different areas. A lot of it ahupua'a, and you usually had a konohiki of some sort, a chief who administered and managed those areas. But the rights of native tenants, I believe, is a very important thing. And these rights are attached to the land. They will forever be part of the land and attached to the land.
Definitely.
And even though lands or land ownerships may change, uh, they will continue perpetually, like forever.
Right.
And so this right, I believe, is not being complied with by such people as the army and all that, but it's there and it's legal, and maybe we need to learn how to use them. Anyway, in the 1890s, in 1893, we have the so-called overthrow, and uh, and around 1900 we have, or just before that, the Newlands Resolution, where the United States unilaterally, using a domestic instrument, a resolution, uh, declares that Hawaii is annexed. Normally, annexation takes place by treaties between two nations,
Mhm.
but in this case, the United States, that is wrapped up in the Spanish-American War at that time and all of that,
Right. Expansion.
declares unilaterally, and like I said, by domestic interest uh, document, declares Hawaii to be annexed to the United States. And so
Right.
this is the start of a lot of problems as far as I'm concerned. Um, and so it seems that although a lot of people in the Western world believe that Hawaii is part of the United States, um, there are still subjects of the kingdom
Mhm.
who are like us, and we will argue that the kingdom still exists and continues.
Mhm.
And there you go. However, for purposes of tonight's discussion, um, I guess we can assume that we're doing it in the United States sphere of things, United States law, and those kinds of things, although we don't really believe in them. And I think I can say that. Um,
Okay.
so
And so
anybody
and
have anything to say up to this point?
so when you talk about the illegal overthrow and then the so-called annexation of Hawaii into the US, I think Uncle Cool, what you were trying to say was that the lands also were illegally transferred, right?
The Republic of Hawaii. Okay, at the overthrow, you get the formation of the
Republic of Hawaii, yeah?
no, before that,
No, the provisional
the
government.
provisional government,
Yes,
which
and
then
then
turns into the Republic of Hawaii.
Mhm.
The Republic of Hawaii cedes these government lands or royal lands, and they're all put together into what they decided was the ceded lands, which they're not ceded, they're stolen to the United States, the United States federal government.
right. And so they
And then-
didn't have a jurisdiction to even transfer those lands over to the United States because there was
Yes,
no.
there's a break in the title.
Yes,
How did the lands get from the kingdom to the
Mhm.
Republic of Hawaii?
right.
And so
Right.
the
Mhm.
United States that claims ownership of these lands,
Mhm.
or claimed at that point anyway, really doesn't have too much of a leg to stand on.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So Uncle Cool,
However-
you know what? I forgot to do introductions too. So can you just share a little bit about yourself? Like, why were you interested in Pohakuloa? You know, kind of thing. What was the like, and where are you from, and where you live, and kind of what's been your work this whole all these decades?
Mhm.
Well, as you can tell, my hair's a little white. I'm an older guy. I was born in Honolulu, happened to graduate from Kamehameha schools and spent some time on the continent, including I did get to go to law school in my old age. I was 40 years old when I graduated, the oldest guy in the class. And after coming back home around 1976, this is the time of the Hokulea, this is the time of Kaho'olawe, and some great Hawaiian things happening. This is the kind of situation that I came home to, and I had been call it a royalist from way back, from as far as I can remember since I was a kid, and so it was normal that I would be become an activist and joining people like all of you guys.
Wonderful. Thank you, Uncle Cool, for all your years of service for our Lahui and for taking the stand that you did. So you, so the Pohakuloa lands, are they considered Hawaiian Kingdom Crown and Government lands? Are they part of those lands that was illegally transferred?
As far as I'm concerned.
Okay. And that's our interest as Kanaka Maoli. We do have interest in those lands.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so as things go, in 1959, the United States does the Unilateral Statehood Act.
Statehood, yeah.
Yeah.
And as a portion of this act, transfers the ceded lands that is not interested in to the new state of Hawaii. And so it's the Admissions Act that sort of becomes an important document along with the Constitution of the state of Hawaii. And in the Admissions Act, we have, okay, with the transfer of these lands, or because of the transfer of the lands, these lands were set aside for the, what's the term, Kealoha?
Betterment of the condition of Native Hawaiians and the general public.
Exactly. Exactly. So we have the formation of what has become now the Public Land Trust, the state of Hawaii being the trustee, the Department of Land and Natural Resources being the agent for the trustee, and the people are the beneficiaries. Okay, this is important. We are the beneficiaries. eventually we're going to say, okay, beneficiaries have benefits. And so with all of this transfer and use and leases and all of these lands, where are our benefits?
Mhm.
Now with Pohakuloa, to have a 65-year lease of tens of thousands of acres
Mhm.
for $1 for the whole period,
65 years.
is this the benefit we get? $1 for the whole period of time for all this large acreage?
Mhm.
And then the Army gets to use these lands for target practice.
Mhm.
So they've been up there since roughly World War II and thereafter, and they're shooting bazookas and mortars, howitzers,
Mhm.
big guns. They're dropping things from the air,
Mhm.
and generally destroying the land.
Mhm.
And when you have this kind of activities, a certain percentage of these armaments
Mhm.
don't explode on cue like they're supposed to. I don't know what that percentage is, but roughly speaking, I remember the term, something like, or the amount, something like 7% or whatever it is of these things that they use do not explode. And so they become UXOs. So you have impact areas on Pohakuloa,
Mhm.
which includes historic sites that they tell us they cannot find because the impact areas are too dangerous for people to get into, to do research, to explore, to whatever's. And so these non-listed historic sites are there and they are being bombarded.
Right. So
With, okay,
when you started the case, how did you know that this was happening?
okay. Roughly 10 years before this, I was on the Pohakuloa Cultural Advisory Committee. And as activities go with the committee, we met once a month, and every other month, if things worked right, we did field trips. And so I was able to go into different parts of the area and notice things. Um, Spent brass and all this kind of stuff are out there. Um, my other contact with Pohakuloa is that because I was on this committee, and starting in 2002, we had this hiking group. And so we hiked across different portions of Pohakuloa a couple times during that period of time. So I've had a few different ways that I've become in contact with the place, intimate contact. And then everybody thought that, these conditions were happening at Pohakuloa, but I was able to
Verify it.
find an attorney that uh, would support action, legal action. I got a great co-plaintiff in Aunty Mac.
Great.
It so happened that after I ran into this attorney, and it happened to be David Kimo Franco, who worked with Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation. I said, I feel pretty lonely. Is there any possibility that we can have like co-plaintiffs? And he says, well, you can, but only one. So I had to go through this sort of mental search, and up came Aunty Max because she's an activist from way back, from Kaho'olawi days, and her whole life. Anyway, so hey, Aunty Mac, you interested in being co-plaintiff for this lawsuit?
Oh my
And
goodness.
without hesitation, she said,
What did you say,
say,
Aunty Max?
On one condition. That's what I told him. I'd love to, but on one condition.
And that condition is,
And that condition is soli nihil.
that we would have Soli be part of our team,
Yeah.
although his name isn't listed because he had already passed. But so we have this triple team of Ku, Aunty Mac, and Soli,
Mhm.
Wow, triple power, triple mana.
who are the plaintiffs, but there only are 2 names on there.
Oh, nice. Okay, thanks for that, Uncle Ku. Thanks for that background. So what we got from it was that these lands are ceded or stolen lands, Hawaiian lands. We're the beneficiaries of these lands. They had the land from 1964. They're not taking care of it. So you and Auntie Max and with Uncle Solini Hill, you guys get into this case. You have an attorney. So Auntie Max, I just wanted to have you speak a little bit. Can you just share first a little bit about yourself? Like,
Guys
just
really want to
where
know?
you're from, kind of thing. And then, kind of speak to about how long did it take you guys to get to this case for Pohakuloa?
Well, first of all,
So where are you from, Auntie Max? Like, where are you from?
actually, I'm from Kaka'ako.
Oh.
My father lived on Queen Street. Yeah, we're from Kaka'ako, a Poriki town, and all the Catholics, and but I was given away. I come from a family of 12. We had 6 girls, 6 boys, and I'm very honored to be number 12.
Wow.
Yeah, my family's all gone, but then Hanai system, you give your baby away, and I raised up in Pa'oa. Ku is my classmate, actually. Him and I grew up in the same area, and we went to the elementary school together. So I know Ku at 75 years ago. We've been friends for 75 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
And then, of course, we parted our ways and everything. And then I grew up and I got married and had all these keikis, And then I said, no, I got to get out of the city. And then I went to live in the country. And I lived over about 50 years in Hau'ula, Ka'ava and Hau'ula. And I worked in the cafeteria for over 30 years. So I became a cook and all that good stuff. And I seen the oppression when I was growing up, having families. You see the oppression in the Hawaiian neighborhood, like in Hau'ula, Honolulu, lots of underprivileged children, and the welfare rates was very high. So I got involved, and what really started me was my husband died in 1975, and I was 36 years old with 5 children and 1 grandchild. And there was nothing for our families, nothing. It was just horrible. And Gwen Kim, who was Soli's wife at that time, she was in QLCC, and it started that way. And then I put all my heart and soul, buried my husband, sent my children to college as the years went by, sent them to trade school and all this kind of. And then I seen the oppression with alcohol and drugs, and I said, I got to get involved. I got to get involved. And so that's how I did it. I started with my husband dying, and I remember this. I remember this man. He's a legislator. I'm not sure if you know him, Helani, but his name was James Campbell. He was Popolo. And he was in the committee on the welfare issue. And I never forgot him, because at that time, you people on welfare are the scums of the world. We do not exist. So anyway, it was so funny. We went to the hearing, did all the kind of stuff. We Our organization we put together, believe it or not, was called Ko'olaoloa Welfare Rights Group.
Nice.
And we did it. We worked hard. We changed food stamps, the language to the food stamps. We gave people to understand the basic of putting it in different ethnic languages. And we did that. We won.
Right.
The Ko'olaoloa Welfare Rights Group did the first breakfast program, believe it or not, in Hau'ula. We won because they were going to put it in Manawili. And we faced the Board of Education. I said, Manawili is a rich freaking place, damn it. Come to the poverty level.
Yeah.
Come to the windward side.
How did you get into the movement? So you started advocating for welfare rights.
Yeah, and then it went on, and then you could see it became hard. And then, of course, working with Soli was with Kokua Hawaii.
Mm.
Yeah.
You
And
probably
all
carried
that
the
stuff,
movement.
Kalahui, and well, Helani, my cousin son is a professor. His last name was Young. He was on a wheelchair.
Oh,
That is my Ohana.
Young.
Yeah. And Lili Kala, little skinny girl running around Kahana. I mean, I fed her kids in Ka'awa Elementary. So working with Jim Anthony. Oh,
Wow.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
how long I go back. Working.
Wow.
And then I think to top it off, Helene, to top all this off, when my brothers died in Vietnam, 2 of my brothers got killed. And I went through this thing looking at, I was proud of my brothers. I'm very proud uniform, going to fight the war. We're going to save the United States and we're going to, all this stuff. And when they died, when they got killed, I looked at the family, my sister-in-law and my nieces, and they're the victims, actually. They don't give a damn. The government did. You wait for your security, your benefits, so-called. Join the service, everybody. We're going to give you benefits.
Right.
But those are the truly victims, are the families.
Yeah. Yeah.
My brother got killed in Vietnam in 1968. And then 2 years later, my brother Kenneth got killed in Vietnam.
Wow.
And when my brother Bobby, his name was Robert S. Andrade, their names are on the plaques near the Capitol. Where the Capitol is, that little plaque on the side? They have all the memorial from the Korean War and the Vietnam War. Well, my brother's names are there. And that's when I started to really go, what the hell is going on? And the suffering, no more, no, dad's not coming home, uncle's not coming home, brother's not coming home. What for? And then the sad part is you get kind of in the family, and then my family said, well, he's that's his job. And I told my ohana, I said, what job? Killing people? Is that what mom raised my brother for? Killing and shooting people? So the guy, whatever Vietnam, I don't know who, that killed my brother, I thought, well, oh my God, 2 strangers killing each other. It wasn't so. When my brother Robert got killed, Bob Jones was with him doing a story. And they both got injured. And Bob Jones' back split open.
Wow.
My brother went out to save because he was in the 25th Infantry. So he went to pick up one of his men. I'm just kind of rushing along. Okay. And Bob really was making, because my brother was famous. He was an athlete, Illinois school, the whole Illinois school in Nu'uanu and all this kind of stuff. He was writing a story. And I had to find out more. And I did, because Bob Jones at that time lived in Punaluu. He lived in Punaluu. And his little girls went to Ka'awa Elementary School at that time. Well, I found out my brother died of American motor. Friendly fire, they call that. Friendly fire. I got more involved. I just got more,
Wow.
but I had kids, you know, I had a job, I had kids, I had a home. So I gotta, you know, think
So,
where I'm going.
Auntie,
But
so
I never forgot. I kept going. Then
good.
2 years later, my other brother got killed. There was machine gun
Oh,
on a hill.
so total 3 brothers passed away,
Two,
Auntie.
two.
Two.
Robert and Kenneth.
Robert.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, Kalamai. Only two.
Okay. What a terrible experience. And
That's
then you got
enough.
involved with the movement.
And I got involved with, well, you know, leading up to a military
Mhm.
is where my brothers came from. Kaka'ako, going to school, being athletic, doing everything. And then all of a sudden they put one gun in my brother's hand and they tell him, hey, go out there and kill people. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was kuaina at that time. I didn't realize that, why are we doing this? We constantly doing this. So what I did, I took a survey at that time when my brothers died.
Mhm.
There was over 50,000 of our local boys that got killed in the Korean War and the Vietnam War at that time,
Wow.
in the 60s and the 70s. 50,000. Yeah.
So,
So,
so when you went into this case with Uncle Cool and he asked you, you had no hesitation.
no.
How long did it take for you guys to get to the case, to get an
Well,
actual judgment? How many years?
well, it started at 2014, yeah? Cool, yeah. We went
Yeah.
in and then I think the case started and then we had Frankel and Summer. And then 2014, I think that's when it all started. And of course, he had to bring all the facts together and stuff. But I think the main issue on Pohakuloa was the land base. It's not 22,000 acres we're talking about. It's over 100,000 acres. Even though the state gave that much, what about the other rest? That's still our land. So we got involved 2014, went into the circuit court, right, Cool? 3 of
Right.
us
In Honolulu.
in Honolulu. And it was, I'll tell you what was the little touchy thing was, Cool and I mean, you know, us guys, we were fat, we broke ass, you know what I mean? We don't want to hide money. So 2 of us guys held and he said, hey, you know what? We gave a representative up here. His name is Bob Lindsay. We go ask a little bit, you know, a little bit kala, yeah?
Right.
So we call up Bob, we email him. Did you email him, Cool?
Yeah.
So we would go ask for a
We
little.
have plane tickets to go to Honolulu and back.
Yeah, go, you know, help us go. And then also Kaukau, you know, us guys live on fixing. Tabaga tell us, hey, we no give money for food. What? They're not budget for us to eat. How's that? But they paid for our plane fare, but we had to give them the receipts, Yaku. We gave them the receipts. But
No,
you
I
see
don't
how
think, I don't think,
stingy Oha, of all people, we're fighting for the Hawaiians. Oha no can even feed us one damn bloody peanut butter jelly sandwich. You know what I mean?
actually, we got our plane tickets from some other source that
Yeah,
I'm not sure of, but it wasn't OHA.
yeah, it wasn't Oha. But he wanted the receipts if he was going to compensate us.
Yeah.
Bob Lindsay. That's how tight these guys are. And we Hawaiians, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so we went into court and Kealoha was the 3 musketeers and stuff. And we had a lot of support there. And I'm sorry, I got to ask who's that lady?
Which
The
one?
cartoonist?
Lauren?
Lauren?
Lauren.
Lauren.
Rigo.
Okay. She was a cartoonist, Helani, and she drew us in the cartoon.
Wow.
She's got all the drawings. It's gorgeous. Even came in, right? I don't know, in the paper. whatever.
Actually, what happened was the first day at court, all the TV cameras showed up.
Oh, yeah, remember?
After the first day, nothing.
Nothing. Yeah,
And it was our cartoonist buddy
that's her, Laura.
that did the daily reports and put
Yeah.
the news out of what was happening in the trial.
Yeah. And she drew all of us. But when we went into court, I think it was kind of spooky. We're going in there. We don't know if we're going to lose or, they're going to kick us out because you get, what his name, the other guy with the military, whatever. I mean, you just don't feel comfortable.
Right.
But then our lawyer was just awesome. I got to say that.
So how did you guys pay for your attorney?
We didn't. We won the case. We didn't have to pay.
Wow.
The state paid them. They got to pay the bill, not us.
Right on.
When you win the case, they got to pay.
The expenses.
Okay, so
That's expensive.
So what date was that when you guys got the ruling on the case?
2.5 years later.
2.5 years later.
Judge Chang. I got first verse. Wait, can I just say something what happened in the court?
Oh, yeah, of course. Go share.
Okay. So, KaLahuiHa, you went first, yeah? Or was it Ku? Ku, you went first? I think, yeah. And then I went. So I went on the stand, and I know about this kind of stuff, So I go on the stand, and there's some books in the front, okay? So you got to take off the books because the lawyer, they're reading their side. So you take out your book, so you go along with them, right? So here's a book. I pull it out, and then Kimo says, "Oh, Aunty Mac, turn it to a certain page." And then here's this picture of this beautiful wahine. Only her back, though. Where's that mountain? Cool. Our favorite mountain. They got name them after us. Where we found all the bombs. The hill.
Milepost 39.
Anyway. No, Helen, it was so funny. That Holly lady took pictures of us, but we found fragments of bombs, bullets. We did, right on the side of the road. We did. So
right
we
by
gave
Milepost 39, just below that.
Yeah. So I pull out the book and I turn it, and there was this beautiful, beautiful lady with her back. And I said, "Who's this beautiful lady?" I said, "Oh, it's me." And the judge went, "Smile, yeah, cool." And they said, "Judge,
all this time
He
he was
went,
poker faced, and all of a sudden she gets him to
Oh
smile.
my gosh.
All of
Okay.
a sudden, what? What did I do wrong now?
No, you did everything right, Auntie. You made him smile.
Yeah, he smiled. And then, when go throw some Kanaka Maoli inside, and they go, "Oh, excuse me, the stenographer don't know how to do that." I said, "Oh, sorry. Kalamaya, oh, I'm sorry." But it was so funny. So in total, I made Judge 3 times, made him smile.
Oh,
3 times. Yeah.
My ka'i, Auntie. Thank you for sharing that mo'olelo. So,
Mac, you gotta tell the story about the other attorney.
Oh, the other attorney.
What's his name? I forget the Howley guy. What's his name?
I forget his name.
It
was a GNR guy.
The other side guy from the military or public prosecutor. No, Helani, this is the truth. So I'm almost done with my testifying, testimony, whatever they call. So, but he slammed down a little bit, because the thing about it, he talked about condemnation of the land, our land. And I came up to the point, Helani, when I said, "Don't you talk to condemnation of our land." You know what I look at condemnation is when one Hawaiian living in one house, and they no can pay the rent because they no more job. You guys come in and condemn the house because you guys like building damn freeway. That's condemnation. So don't talk to me about condemnation. And a guy, he looked at me And the judge never said nothing. So all of a sudden, he turned around, he told Judge Chang, would you address her, a judge, and tell her to answer? He said, she already has. I said, yeah, all right, Judge. But after a while went pow, I got off the stand. He came up to me and he hugged me. He did. He literally hugged me. That whatever his name is, that prosecutor or whatever. And you know what he told me? He said, what a good job. I said, you should change yours. That's all I said. You should change your job. No,
Oh,
really.
Auntie, so feisty. Okay, so what were you guys trying to prove? What were you guys trying to prove in that court case? What was the whole point of it and what came out of the court case? That's what I kind of wanted to get to next. I don't know, Kealoha, did you want to share a little bit and just kind of introduce yourself when you start talking?
Yeah.
Kealoha, if you want to share a little bit about what maybe someone, because I know you were one of the witnesses in the case, in this Pohakuloa case.
Yeah, but actually Uncle Ku can tell you more about it. Sorry,
Okay.
I will introduce myself though.
Okay, great. Yeah.
I'm with Malama Aina, and I'm coming on just to support Auntie Mac and Uncle Ku in discussion about, the real impacts. People just really don't understand how important this case is. Ching versus case is a very seminal case. And all of the young lawyers out there need to be aware of this case and look at it because it sets important precedent. And, and go ahead, Uncle Ku.
Okay, Uncle Ku. What was the whole point of doing this? Like, what did you want the military to do? What was the point of?
Let me do it this way.
Okay.
Okay. Early on, I said that the lands were given to the state in 1959. The state was the trustee for the public land trust. The LNR was the agent for the state.
Agent, yeah.
One of the things that came out of this case was a really great explanation of trusts and how they work. There's a whole area of the law about trusts. And what I think was important that they made this public land trust to be like other trusts, like regular trusts, and to follow the rules. One of the first things, what happens is that the trustee and his agents have fiduciary responsibility and duties to protect the things, the objects, the mail, the whatever of the trust. And so with this responsibility, they now have to sort of figure out what's going on from time to time with the trust. In this case, of course, it's land and Pohakuloa. One of the things they're supposed to do is monitor these lands from time to time to see if the people they're leasing the lands out to are in compliance of all the conditions and rules and all that stuff. Well, what is interesting is that in 50 years, they only supposedly inspected Pohakuloa 2 times. And one of those reports was totally blank. So basically speaking, they inspected Pohakuloa 1 time in 50 years.
And I bet you if there was a Hawaiian village in Pohakuloa, they would have inspected our village about 100 times. If we had the 65-year lease for our village. That's the honest truth. I can't believe that.
So the basic thing is that DLNR, agent for the state, who's the trustee,
Yeah.
is supposed to monitor the
Mhm.
happenings on the base
Mhm.
periodically and to see that the Army's in compliance. And of course, like I said, they did it one time in 50 years.
Mhm.
So this was actually the case.
It
Uh,
was
Wow.
the monitoring. Yeah. Mhm.
and that um, the other important thing is that I mentioned that in a trust, there are beneficiaries, and we are the beneficiaries. In fact, DLNR, their duty obligation to monitor and take care of the trust and all of this activity behavior is for the beneficiaries. That's for us.
Mhm.
And of course, we
They
all
don't treat us
know,
like the beneficiaries. They treat us like the
actually, we all know that they treat us like enemy, their enemy. They, they do everything against us and all that. They're actually breaking their obligations, their duty to the trust and to us. So this is all in this case. That's all part of the decision. And so Pohakuloa,
Mm.
let's even say that a
Mm.
lot of the cases that are involved on Hawaii Island and in the so-called state of Hawaii, Makua, Mauna Kea, Pohakuloa, they're all trust cases.
Mhm.
And we're the beneficiaries. And they're supposed to do stuff for us. Beneficiaries are supposed to have benefits. There are no benefits. And so I believe that this case is set up to take us further down the road
Mhm. Mhm.
and to start getting things further straightened out because up to this point, it is all screwed up. And
May
that's
I
the importance of the
continue
case.
after him?
Of course, Auntie.
Okay. I think the whole thing is even talking to our attorneys and stuff. But even in history, there was no judge that ever said anything in the court of law in the state of Hawaii, one Hawaiian word as Malama Aina. And Judge Chang did that. Malama Aina. Okay.
When did he say that?
In the courtroom.
He said it in the
In his
final.
decision,
In the final decision he made the final within, yeah, Malama Aina.
so
Yeah,
this becomes the Malama Aina case.
Yes, it does.
he says the state failed to Malama Aina.
Yeah.
You won the case, so the state found in your favor with the case.
Well, we won the case, Helani, but the state, um, actually, they didn't do anything to us. They were fighting with the judge. That's the way I look at it. They overruled their own kind of people and took us to the Supreme Court. How stupid is that? DLNR is so quiet, like a mouse in the side, which they're supposed to be the target. They're the disease. They're the ones that made all this trouble because they gave the lease. So they take us to the Supreme Court, right?
Well, wait, Auntie, explain
Years
that.
after.
Explain that. The state was actually appealing the Malama Aina finding
Yeah.
against
Yeah.
their own interests. So they appealed it up to the Supreme Court. Sorry, Auntie, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No, but that's exactly what they did. So we sit back and we watch them fight with each other. So they bring this attorney to speak in the court, in the Supreme Court, and he's from Italy. I couldn't damn understand him. I don't know what he was talking about. But anyway, he's
Neither did the
overruling Judge
justices.
Chang. What's that, Cool?
Neither did the justices.
Yeah. So all of them out there with their black robes are looking at them. And, it was just something else. But let me just go back a little bit at the beginning of the Supreme Court. we brought a kuli lace from Waimea. We brought and gave it to our attorney, too. When I presented the lei to Kimo and Summer, I didn't realize, that they cannot wear that kind of stuff inside there in the Supreme Court.
Oh.
But they wore it, and they wore it till the end of our trial. They did. So I told you the other day that when I walked into the Supreme Court, I felt intimidated as a Hawaiian. Like we couldn't move. We couldn't speak. I felt so hurt in there.
Yeah.
And I thought they were going to tell me to take off my papali. But I did not take my papali off. And my mu'umu'u to match my papali. And we stayed in that courtroom and listened to nonsense. Really, fighting against each other. The state fighting against Judge Chang, fighting against. Crazy. It was so crazy, really. But we had how long did we wait for the Supreme Court to
Not too long.
That's right, because our attorney said, Maxine, cool. The Supreme Court takes from 6 months to a year to make their decision.
Mm-hmm.
But Helani, 2.5 months later, we won. 2.5 months later, because I remember we were in Kuhil with Kepadem in the little house of Mauna Kea.
Halekuhil.
Yeah, Halikuhil. And Lakea said, Auntie, listen to this. You guys won. We won.
It was August 23rd, 2019, the ruling.
2.5 months. We went to court in May. And 2.5 months, the Supreme Court gave the decision. And the thing is, they're still freaking bombing. Why are they doing it? That means you think the military and Congress and all these buggers get more power of our Supreme Court in Hawaii? No, it's not the Supreme Court, Helani. Let's face it, it's the Hawaiian people. They don't like us. They need to extinguish us. And so they're doing it. They're doing it. Bombing the hell out of our lands. Bombing.
Oh,
You
you
know?
can see the lays, Auntie. Helani
That's
put
my papali.
Yeah, yeah. And you
There's
can
my lace.
Kimo, Franco, and Summer.
Summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Summer Silva.
And they are the attorneys that argued this.
And the lace that we have on is Puakini Star Kalahiki gave us those lace.
Oh, yes. Summer.
Star gave us Ku and I the Puakini. Yeah.
Star
And
was
Came into
at
court.
that hearing too.
Wonderful.
But we are proud that we are proud Kanaka, you know, and look at our attorney, how
Happy he is.
so happy. You know, it's over, he says.
Beautiful.
They didn't make a decision to 2.5 months later. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Auntie. So isn't there supposed to be some kind of follow-up from Pohakuloa in terms, or is it from the Department of Land and Natural Resources or Pohakuloa? Don't you have to write a report and get some monitoring?
They're supposed to take us. You said, go. You're gonna.
The judge suggested that every 2 years, DNR is supposed to do an inspection of the place.
Yeah.
And while they're inspecting the place, they're supposed to let 2 people from our side go along with the inspectors.
Yeah.
However, it's almost been 2 years since the decision came out.
Yeah.
And the first
2018.
inspection hasn't happened yet. So we're patiently or impatiently waiting for that inspection to take place.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Okay, so And I want to mahalo both of you because I know both of you are just grassroots kupuna from the community who
Yeah.
went about to do this.
Mhm.
But let me say this, Hilani.
Yeah.
It is ironic. We have DLNR,
Mm-hmm.
agent for the state, who's the trustee, who's supposed
Mhm.
to be protecting all the mea over there. And we have this lease to the army for them
Mhm.
to go out and shoot, bomb, destroy our lands.
Mhm.
It doesn't make sense. The state is supposed to protecting these
Mhm.
lands and
Mhm.
all the resources in and on them and all that kind of stuff. Yet they are letting these guys do this kind stuff to our sacred lands. But you gotta get Kealoha to tell her story because she was an awesome witness,
Mhm.
including talking about white phosphorus and
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
brass falling out of helicopters and people running into their cars and all kinds of things like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Go ahead, Keloha. Can you share, like, maybe because you were a cultural monitor, weren't you? Can you
Yeah.
share a little bit of what, are you able to share a little bit of what you observed there?
A bit. Yeah. Just so you know, I was a part of a team of, I think, 6 of us, 6 monitors, and we were in the field. And actually, Uncle Ku, when he was on the cultural advisory group, had suggested to the army that they should have Hawaiian cultural monitors monitoring all the activity. And so we were not hired by the army because we wanted to have we wanted to be independent of the army. And our job was to basically watch that no EV was disturbed, watch the earth movers and make sure nothing happened, and to watch anything cultural. So monitoring destruction of the trees or any of the birds or endangered species, things like that. So we were basically the generic cultural monitors, and we pretty much had free reign. Uh,
Mhm.
um, but when we first started, they wouldn't even give us a map, so
Mhm.
we had to demand to have a map. Like, we don't even know where we are. You know, it's a huge complex, and
Mm.
it's very tough work. We were on job from 12 to 14 hours a day, and it's very scorching sun out there. So it was, we all had to have hard hats and everything, and
Mm.
so we had to um, always be escorted with unexploded ordnance specialists because it is really littered out there, right? So they
Mm.
don't let you they don't let us walk around unless we have a UXO guy or woman with us. So everywhere we went, if we said, hey, we want to go look at that cave over there, they would have to go in front of us and
Mm.
go with the metal detector
Mm.
and walk us through it. And we had to have all the UXO training so
Mhm.
that we understood what everything, or hopefully what all the things were. There's things out there that trigger on movement. So if one of the UXO guys told us to freeze, we had to freeze, and he said don't even breathe,
Oh, gee.
like that. So it was very rough terrain. It was very scary. We had a number of very scary incidents. Uh,
Mhm.
Even a giant 6-foot UXO, came up inside of a bucket of the earth mover. And the guy was like, waving to us because there was a point where they instructed us to not stand in the dust. So we had to sit in the car. And so we had to angle the car so that we could just see the bucket. And then the guy pulls out this thing that's bigger than a human, unexploded. And I remember we had to call it in, and the UXO and also the Navy, they're the bomb
Mm.
specialists. They rushed out and And then they told us we had to turn around and drive, and they said, don't stop until you hear it's okay on the walkie, you know. They go,
Jeez.
just keep driving because we're not sure the sea. And we said, well, what about the guy in the, you know, in the earth mover? And they're like, he just has to stay still and not breathe. So, you know, things like that. And
Oh my.
also just the what was very traumatic for a lot of us was when we witnessed, you know, them driving the airplane like this and then just dropping bombs. And we're like, you know, we're on the ground, you know, we're out here. How high are you dropping these bombs from, you know? And other times the monitors, we used to always you know, write in our reports, like, we think you're dropping white phosphorus, and white phosphorus is very dangerous. We were told, you know, if you ever see anything white, don't walk by it, don't touch it, don't kick it, because it will incinerate. And
Yeah.
yeah, and if it lands on you, it will it will burn through bone. And the only way to snuff it out is you have to snuff it out with wet mud, you know. So we had to deal with things like that, and we used to see it, and we used to complain because if they're dropping white phosphorus, that's against the Geneva Convention, by the way. And the white phosphorus can land on animals, you know, like our native birds that are all out there, bats, quail, you know, all of those things. So it was things like that that, you know, I was there to testify about all of the unexploded ordnance. You know, there was a point where the guy said, well, you can't really validate that, you can't say you saw things like that. And I said, well, I didn't take the photo, so I can't say that I didn't see that particular picture of all the unexploded ordnance. But at one point I said, but if you're asking if I've seen anything like that, the answer is yes, it's everywhere. And that's why we have to be with unexploded ordnance guys to walk around, even just to walk freely. You know, it's very, I mean, they've been bombing since 1946 or something, right, Uncle Koo? Somewhere that far back. Yeah. And it's, and also I want people to understand that this case was relating to the state lands, right? But there's other lands that are larger than Kaho'olawe. I mean, that's the area of the bombardment, and the bombardment, some bombardment comes from 30,000 feet up. That's how large it is. And the area is very filled with cultural things, but we cannot access it because they're occupying. We can't use that land. And, you know, I didn't realize how bad it was until I was a monitor. And then I was shocked because there's beautiful, incredible things. There's underground ahu. There's caves that still have sandalwood, big piles of sandalwood left in it. Our kupunas had a really unique way of collecting water. And there's, in some places in the caves in there, there's still the systems to collect water because it's very dry. But they used a system of using the temperature, the cold temperature, and when the sun comes up, it creates humidity, and they used to collect the water drip for drinking. And so they used to use the caves, like Uncle Koo, those caves are like highways, right? And so the people used to traverse those caves. And then the other important part that we watched was the Awaiakua, which are the waterways. And at first, when we reported it, I remember this, the archaeologist saying, oh no, those were created during the Ice Age. And I said, well, they might have been created during the Ice Age, but they're still in use, you know? I mean, can't you see? You can see the ili and everything, right? And they said, oh no. And so I just kept writing it in the report. But those waterways feed all the water. Like, Auntie, they come right down by you guys in Waimea, right?
Yeah.
These Waiakua. And so one time we told them, they better watch out, because when the mountain gets full, the waters come down. And one time it did, and it flooded all of Pohakuloa. And even the monitors had to call in and get taken out by helicopter because it flooded. We heard it coming down from Mauna Kea, because it was very snowy up there, right? And so when there's too much snow, there's excess of water, and it started coming down Pohakuloa Gulch. And it made ruts that were like 10 feet. A Jeep fell in the rut. That's big water, you know? So
Flash flooding.
yeah, it's flash flooding. So it's big stuff out there.
That's natural, and it's nature.
Natural.
So thank you, KaLahuiHa, for sharing that. So basically you won your case. They haven't followed up with any kind of monitoring or report. Instead, what did they do? From what I hear, they're starting in an effort to renew their lease, right? They started their EIS process.
The present lease terminates in 2029.
Yeah.
9 years from now. They one of the conditions of the present lease is that they're supposed to clean the place up, and so it's supposed to be clean at the end of the lease when they're supposed to turn it over.
Yeah.
I believe that they want to extend the lease so they can get around not having to do it. In other words, they're just going to keep the Aina full of these dang things and just, like kick the can down the road another 65 years so they don't have to clean up. And if we really know what's going on, on some of the major impact areas, they will never get them cleaned up because it's too dang dangerous to let people go in there.
Yeah.
Helene.
Yeah.
I think the whole part of this, the whole part of what Pohakuloa is wanting to do, it's build a city within a city. And our Congress people like Hanabusa at that time and Mazie Hirono and all them are giving a lot of compensation to Pohakuloa. And the sad part of it is Hawaiian land. It will always be Hawaiian land, but they're going to bomb the hell out of it so nobody gets the land. Nobody. If I can't get the land, you guys are not going to get the land. Let's put it that way. I remember I called you about that article in that paper on November 1st. How many reasons? So what I'm saying is they're going to do it whether we won the case or not.
Yeah.
It's power. And
Aunty Max, I like that quote that you said when I talked to you. I quoted you. We won by their rules, and now they won't follow their own rules.
Well, that's right.
Won in the highest court in Hawaii, and still they won't follow their rules. And from what we hear now, they're actually now going to go to Congress. I want to share this.
Go ahead.
Ed Case,
I want to speak to that too after.
Ed Case, who is the brother of Suzanne Case.
Yeah.
The chair of the Department of Land and Natural Resources, the defendant in New York Supreme Court case.
Yeah, that's brother and sister.
Brother, sister. He comes up with an amendment for the U.S. House Resolution 6395. And House Resolution 6395 is attached to the military funding bill. So he comes up with this resolution. Excuse me, I just have to drink some water.
Sure.
Lands throughout the state of Hawaii currently owned and leased by the Department of Defense or in which the Department of Defense otherwise has a real property interest are critical to maintaining the readiness of the armed forces now stationed or to be stationed in Hawaii and throughout the Indo-Pacific region and elsewhere. Securing long-term continued utilization of these lands by the armed forces is thus critical to national defense. What do you think he's doing there?
Well,
He doesn't want to give the Hawaiians back their land. They want to take it either for military and tourism. And if us Hawaiians don't stand up now, we won't have our lands. We gotta kahea. That's the whole damn truth. I mean, who puts a cemetery in a volcano? That's what Punch Bowl is. And our people are buried in a volcano. Why not in Arlington? In Washington, D.C.? That's what these Hawaiians gotta get up, rise up. We're losing our lands, not only to military. We're losing our lands to big corporations from Arab, from India, from Japan, you name it. Where the hell are we going? We don't have any place to go. Why don't we listen? You know, when I went on Kaho'olawe, that's exactly what we did. We must get this island back. And everybody laughed at us. Because what the heck, you guys want an island when there's nothing on it? There is significant tradition of our Hawaiian people. An island is an island to us. As long as it's in our chain, it's ours. It's ours. And this is what's going to happen now. If we don't move now, you all Hawaiians can kiss your guys, whatever. And where the hell are you guys going?
Right.
I'm sorry, but I have to say this. We won in the Supreme Court. And now the damn Congress thinks they're God to go over the ruling of what we won. We won by their rules. We played by their rules. So what the hell is the rules then?
What are they
You
good
know-
for?
can I say something?
Sure.
Because what Auntie's saying is exactly correct. What Ed Case is doing with this amendment is attempting to do two things. One, override the Hawaii Supreme Court decision. Okay. And number two, to basically extend indefinitely. And Helani, you need people to understand that it doesn't only affect Pohakuloa. It
No.
affects all military lands in Hawaii across the archipelago. And so what they're doing is trying to basically give them the land outright, even though, and so they're trying to overturn the limits on their lease. Just like Mauna Kea, right? Their lease is up in 2033 on Mauna Kea. This one, the lease is up in 2029. And this is important for people to know. They're trying to, you know, when those leases are legally binding agreements. That's why the court could rule on it, right?
Right.
So what the military is trying to do, and we ask them this question is like, did you not read the lease when you signed it?
Mhm.
It's a binding contract, and the BLNR is only the trustee operating on our behalf. So they're supposed to operate on our behalf. Instead, it looks like the state is trying to use the Congress to overturn Hawaii Supreme Court, which is good law. And that is hewa law. That is not done. You know who taught me that? Dan Inouye. Because he's the one who publicly said it's never a good idea to try to use legislation to overturn good law, meaning law that is constitutionally sound. And in this case, it's in accordance with our Admissions Act. So this will be violating the Admissions Act.
Yes.
The state
Yes.
has to protect the body corpus of the trust. It's almost like a taking, just giving it off to
Giving it away.
giving it away. And so, yeah, I think it's in the actions maybe.
Yeah. And I know that in response you folks, the Ailike, the Mauna Kea Mokonui Ailike Consensus Building Ohana did write a letter.
Yeah.
Did write a letter to Congress, to our congressional delegation, saying, hey, didn't the military read the agreement before they signed it? You only have it for 65 years. You got to clean it up after you use it.
Give it back.
And you got to have inspections.
Yeah.
And the court affirmed it, 2 courts.
Yeah.
2 courts. Yeah.
Judge Chang, and then also the Hawaii, this highest law of this land. So it's really unethical for our lawmakers to be trying
Override.
to try to override that.
They're overriding the law, their own law.
And
so
excuse me.
I gotta say it at this point, for instance. One of the great reasons for having this program on tonight and discussing all of this is we want Hawaiians, those who love the Aina, those who Malama Aina,
Yes.
to know
Yes.
what their legal position is. And that is
Yes.
the beneficiaries, we are the beneficiaries,
Exactly.
beholden to us. And maybe we may even have to write our other representative in Congress who happens to be a Hawaiian.
Yeah.
To remind him that he should be checking out Malama Aina and all the things that go along with that, because it is important. It is the Aina, and we have to Malama it.
Yep. Yep. Thank you.
Melanie, I just want to say this, okay? You know, when we went on the road, on the access road up to Mauna Kea, we knew that was our road, our pathway. And DHHL has not even come up and congratulated us and said, this is your place. Instead, DOT goes on top of our land and then have us arrested on our own land. So talk about shame in Hawaii for all the representatives and the congressmen who, when they're starting to vote, come out and run for it, whatever you may call it, and shake your hand and tell you the way they tell us, we're going to work with you people. We're going to do the best for Hawaii. We're going to do this and now what they do, they're writing amendments. So I'm saying right now on this live stream, all you Kanaka better ho'olohe and listen what's happening, because Aunty Mac and the other 30 kupunas are still in trial.
Oh,
We have never got released yet. We're still in trial. They never say, okay, go home, you guys, all pow. So listen to us, as kupunas. We're still in trial. And now we have a new mayor. He going to throw the key away. And what's going to happen to us kupunas? We're still going on the road. I know I'm going on the road. But we have to do it now. Look what's happening. This is terrible, our government.
right.
Look who's running our island. Italians, American, whatever you call that, not one Hawaiian. Because why? With the minorities today. Shame. Shame, Kanaka. Ku'e, Aunty Mac said. Ku'e.
Yeah.
Listen.
Very end. Ku'e. Okay, so mahalo, you guys. And you know, we're getting close to our time where we got to end, but I wanted to make sure we did, we had an opportunity to share a little bit because all of us here are part of the Mauna Kea Mokunui Ailike census building. And I'm a kako'o for you folks. So, but I wanted you folks to share about your website that you have up where people can go on. And I'm going to pull that up right now where people can go on and actually read some of the documents, the letters, the instances you've taken.
Yeah, I think they have to go in actions, the way it's structured out. And you know, we want to say that it's still under construction, but there's been a number of positions that have come out.
So the website is alomaunakea.info.
Yeah.
It's alomaunakea.info.
Oh,
Just know it's still under construction, okay?
Yeah.
nice.
It's grassroots. So if you want to sign on to any of the positions or letters, especially the one to Congress, you can by going to call to action. So if you go to alomaunakea.info and then you click on call to action and you can sign on to Uncle Cool and Aunty Maxine's letter and statement that they drafted that went to Congress, and it also went to the Army commanders.
Yes.
Right. So you guys have been working hard.
Uncle Cool. Thank you, Uncle Cool.
Yeah. And so we want to invite all of you to please go on that and submit.
Yeah, we really need everyone to support this letter. And you don't have to be Kanaka to support it. It's all people.
All those who love the land.
Needs to get this message very seriously. It's a very serious message. If you cannot use Congress and the law in this way. So please sign on. And then you can go on and see the other positions and sign those as well.
Yeah. You can see all the letters on the website. There's also, so you can just, if you go to the website, there's things you can read about and, you know, information on all of that. And I want to thank you, Uncle Cool, Ching, for all your hard work, all these decades. Pohakuloa Mauna Kea.
Yo, Uncle Cool.
It's wonderful to see our kupuna standing with us and for standing for the Aina.
I look at it the other way. It's all the young folks standing with the kupuna.
Hey, what about us, the makua, in between?
Oh, you too.
Our inspiration.
Nobody ever mentions makua. Nah, just joking. But cool. Thanks for everything you've done and for this, you know, for initiating this important landmark court case. Aunty Maxine, mahalo for taking that arrest on Mauna Kea on behalf of our sacred Mauna.
And Olave and all the other ones.
And for being the plaintiff on this case, this landmark case. And I want to invite everybody to please, just as Uncle Cool was explaining, learn about our Hawaiian Kingdom Crown and Government lands and the trust lands and how it illegally transferred over. I mean, if you read Williamson Chang's work, he says there's nothing to show that it was ever transferred over.
Yeah.
You know, there's no real, anyway, so you can get into the nitty gritty of it, but the basic premise of what Uncle Cool is saying is that we are the beneficiaries of the Crown and Government lands, and that is the lands of Mauna Kea and the lands of Pohakuloa, and most of the military bases are on these lands. And so we have to stand for our Aina because nobody else will. We cannot expect anybody else to stand for the Aina except us, Kanaka. And I want to mahalo ke aloha Piscoda for all your work for Mauna Kea and for Pohakuloa. Just very honored to have all of you on the show. Lahui updates today, Friday, December 4th. And I just want to have everybody say some last words. on your mana'o. We're kind of running out of time. I'm so sorry. There's probably a lot more we could say, right, about this issue. But if you go to our website, alomaunakea.info, you can read up on some of the issue. But we'll start with Aunty Max. Any last words? Any message to our
Yes, my last words is, I always hear even my friends say, well, if the military leave Hawaii, where they going to practice? Read the commandments of God. It says, thou shalt not kill. Because if my brothers were alive today, I don't think they would have killed anybody else. So, I mean, brother and sisters in the armed forces, that's not your fault. Please, don't get me wrong. But we need to stand as Kanaka. We need to stand for our land of Hawaii. Please, thou shalt not kill. No more wars.
Mahalo. And I didn't mean to say last words. I meant closing words. Sorry, Auntie.
That's for these guys out there, the last words.
Ke aloha. Any closing words?
Yes, ke aloha.
First, mahalo, Helani, for all that you do.
Oh,
You continue to do for the Lahui. Thank you for having us on. Thank you, Aunty Mac and Uncle Ku, for all that you do and for continuing to inspire us. I wanna just add what Auntie said, that it's time to raise the standard of aloha, and we need our land for the healing of our earth. And the United States imperial agenda is POW. It needs to be POW. And the state can get money even to help clean up Pohakuloa by declaring, we're asking the federal government declare these super cleanup sites, and let's clean it up, because it's time to clean up the bad action and move into a better place and in a better way. Our Aina is being used now as the staging ground for going out and hurting other indigenous people and other people around the world. Every time they do RIMPAC and all of these things, and we are saying we're the right holders of this Aina, and we need to stop. But we need everyone to join with us to sign up, be a part of this voice for a better day. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Mahalo ke aloha. Uncle Ku, you have the last
the last stand.
I'm not gonna say last words. I'm gonna say last closing words.
The last word.
Okay. In international law, based on the principles of continuity, the Hawaiian Kingdom exists. And because of all you activists, it will continue.
Yo.
Mahalo.
Yo.
Mahalo. Kia imauna, everyone.
Kia imauna.
Pohakuloa. Aloha, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. And mahalo to
Mahalo, Helani.
Blake and Laura. Mahalo nui loa.
Mahalo.
Mahalo, Jenny.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Laura.
Aloha, Lori.